And hello everyone. Welcome to the new episode of Levsha Podcast. And today with us, I am proud to introduce you Chen, leader of Cowbay Localization Studio. First of all, Sean, I'll give you the word to you, and please just introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about you and about Cowbay and what do you do, so for we can know you a bit better.
Hi everyone, this is Chen from Taiwan and Cowbay Entertainment, and my actual name is Jason Chen, but I always go by Chen, just easier for everyone. Yeah. So I started Cowbay Entertainment like 2019 for the localization stuff, and only for gaming because that's what my patients are. And before I founded the company, I was working with the Blizzard Entertainment localization department for like 5 years. So I have like a kind of like a not plenty, but some experience in working with the AAA games, like internally. So after I left Blizzard, I just think, oh, maybe I should start working on other games than Blizzard because for the past 5 years, it's all Blizzard, Blizzard, Blizzard. So I just want to do like more other games. Yeah, so that's why I started a company. And other than most localization company, we also do the dubbing stuff, like voice acting. Very good at like doing the scripting thing. Yeah, because like scripting is like very different from the pure like text translation or localization. But we can talk this later. So that's our like other advantage. And so for the past 3 years, the Cowbay has been growing from only me to now like we have like 9 internal translators here and covering more and more projects in the gaming industry for traditional Chinese market. Yeah.
Cool, Sean. So that I can say that as usual, our guests here and you also are just independent localization professionals. That could sound a bit fancy, but that's what we are, and it's really cool to see that the independent market is still alive, and not only global brands and global companies are ruling everything.
Yeah.
But let's dive now a bit deeper into some questions that are interesting for me, for example. So that's you're a speaker of Chinese, and but you have a westernized name for your Western partners, yes? And it's so a part of integration of you and your company into the global market. That's how I understand it. So for your Western partners can be easier when calling you, writing you, whatever. But I think that you have so your own part of your heritage, your language. So did you think about it? So about drawing a boundary here, or no? If
For the boundaries, I don't think there's no such boundaries here, and I think it is kind of like a culture things, like you mentioned. That because I don't know why that many of the people here in like in Chinese or like many people here will just come up with a nickname. Like I have a Shang as a nickname, but before that I was Jason. But I think it's too common, so I changed to Sean. So it's kind of like a nickname for us here, and because but in the like very official meeting, we will go by our real name just to be like being formal. Yeah, I think that's being. But we will always like put a nickname in our real name, so that's easier for for others to call us, because we know that it's very hard for the non-Chinese speaker to pronounce our names, and sometimes we just like we couldn't understand when when you pronounce it. So
Yes,
something
yes,
like
yes.
yeah, yeah. But funny things like for Japanese, they're also, because their names are very easy to pronounce as a non-Japanese speaker. So like when I was studying abroad in America, that many of our classmates, they know all the like famous game director in Japanese,
Hmm.
and they can say it fluently. But in Taiwan or in China, we always say their Japanese name in Chinese because they're written in Chinese characters. So when when our classmates were talking about those producers, and I have no idea what they're talking about because we don't know. We pronounce it very differently.
Okay, it's very interesting. So let's try. So one the to try like an exercise. Let's exchange names of the famous Japanese game producers. So for example,
Like a Kojima, we call it 小岛秀夫.
oh my
But
God,
it's totally
it's
different from
Kojima.
Hideo Kojima. Yeah, it's totally different. Yeah, but
Oh
in
my God.
Japanese, Kojima is written in Chinese character is as 小岛秀夫. Yeah, it's so totally
Mhm.
different.
If we're so the mentioning Chinese, like Sean, then could you please just for me and for our audience just make some basic explanations, or I will just explain how I feel it, and you will correct me in the places that I'm wrong. So the Chinese language, so the word Chinese language in English, it mainly means the standardized language that's both spoken in Taiwan and in mainland China. And it's based on the northern Chinese dialect, so historically. But it has two types of graphics to write down the symbols, and so the mainland China uses simplified graphics as well as Singapore, for example, and Taiwan uses traditional graphics as well as
Taiwan,
Hong
Hong
Kong.
Kong. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Yes,
correct.
but Hong Kong uses Cantonese Chinese as a spoken language, and it's
Yeah.
so just a bit different thing. And now we dig deep into that hole of information. So just your comments will be very welcome from someone who understands how it works in reality.
Okay. I'll try to explain it. Uh, it's kind of hard for traditional Chinese here. Let me explain it like the. Let's ignore the historical like why there has two different systems. So simplified Chinese are like it's a simplified how to write all the characters. So most of the traditional Chinese speaker could read the simplified one, but it's not vice versa. So simplified readers, they should have to learn a little bit about traditional one. So yeah, and for traditional Chinese market, it's kind of there are two main market. One is Taiwan, one is Hong Kong. But the difficult part is that uh, most of the traditional Chinese players are in Taiwan, but in the market side, most of the majority of the traditional games were sold in Hong Kong, and that is because that most of the players in the mainland China, they would import the game from Hong Kong because of some because they were prohibited by selling games in mainland China, so they have to import it from Hong Kong. So most of the vendors or the game developer, they thought that the main market for traditional Chinese is in Hong Kong, and some of them will just ask the like us like traditional Chinese localization to localize the traditional Chinese in as a Hong Kongese style. Yeah, but the problem is that Hong Kongese players is like a quarter of the Taiwanese players, so it's kind of the hard decision. Like it's if we translate it in a Hong Kongese way, that most of the real traditional Chinese players would understand what they're talking about. Yeah, so sometimes we have to argue with them about this, but yeah, sometimes we won. Sometimes they will just okay, we'll just find another Hong Kongese translators to do the games. Yeah, so this is kind of a difficult part for us. Yeah.
So it's very interesting, and we're now it's just am I right that it's about the physical games like for discs and just all the stuff, and not the mobile games.
Not physically, but also digitally, because in mainland China they sometimes they couldn't just buy the games from the online like a Steam or other platform. They have to like use the VPN to go to the Hong Kong or other different places to buy the game. Yeah, so yeah, that's the
Yeah, just because that from what I understood that usually the game publishers then they make a traditional Chinese version. They aim at Hong Kong, while their real audience is in Taiwan, and that I've just quite rarely seen such opinion, because our clients that and what I ask them usually, so that guys, do you need Taiwan coverage? Then we make traditional Chinese. If you don't need it, then you don't make it. So that's a very interesting thing, because I've never heard about that. Someone says, okay, I need to cover Hong Kong and make me a traditional Chinese version.
Yeah, it happens time to time. Yeah.
Yeah, and while that's you say that the traditional Chinese version for Hong Kong will not be understandable in Taiwan, and what is the main difference? So just is it about words, or so how it works?
Yeah, because in Hong Kongese, the Hong Kongese style traditional Chinese, some of their terms were transliterated by their pronunciation, which is totally different from Taiwanese accent. Yeah, so for taxi, for example, we call it 计程车 in Taiwan, but in Hong Kong they just call it 的士. It sounds like a taxi. Yeah, so it's like totally different. Yeah, and like a strawberry, we call it 草莓, which is straw plus berry. And in Hong Kong, it just sounds like strawberry. They just use a transliterated way to call it. Yeah, so it's like totally different style.
I've never tried to learn it, and just idea of writing Chinese characters, it's something so mind-blowing for me. So how do you cope with and just how it works? It's very, very, for me it looks very complicated. Yes, so of course then you're from your childhood, and of course it's just quite easy for you, but just maybe you have any comments from your friends who learned Chinese, so how they coped with the complexity or not complexity. So that no, it's then you start. It's quite easy. So how it works.
I think it's even for a Chinese speaker, like memorize all the characters are very hard. So we always use like a way to type the Chinese character that we don't have to memorize how to write it. We just know how to say it. So sometimes we don't do the writing stuff in modern days. So we all do the typing. So when we were trying to write some like maybe like diary or something like that, we always forgot like how to write it. All those like characters. and we always mocking ourselves that we wasted a lot of time in our student. We wasted too much time learning all the characters. Yeah, so we might be like doing much more meaningful stuff than learning all the characters. Yeah, instead of doing like other meaningful things.
That's also an interesting part because that yes, of course you're right that modern days we are all at the keyboards we type every day, we type many things every day. And just by the way, how do the Chinese keyboards look like? So they were like usual ones and you or they have parts of symbols there, or
There are many different ways to type. Like for most of the people, they will use like a phonemic. How to say that? Phonemical. Like we type it like
like pinyin.
yeah. Like pinyin, pinyin, like pinyin. So it's like if we were saying ping, then we'll type ping. So it's like ping. Yeah. So but in Taiwan, most of we use a bopomorpho typing style that there's another different system that for Taiwanese to learn how to pronounce the characters. But I personally use another system to type. Like if you understand that Chinese, most of the Chinese character they can like separate it into different parts. So I have to like I have to understand how to write that character and have to disintegrate it and type every part of them to combine into a character. So that's a different way to type in Chinese. Yeah. So there are like 3 or 4 major typing style in Chinese. So
and you know that the second part of this topic is for me that for I personally, while I type of course many times a day, that I still force myself to write things down so into my notebook and to know that so I was preparing for our talk, I made some notes and I force my son to write down because they say that you know then you write with a pen that the different areas of brain are activated and it's important. And if we take the Chinese culture, it's from my perspective, it's very much about calligraphy. So the beauty of writing down symbols with the ink. So how it is nowadays? So is it still some respected art, or it's changing? So how it is?
it becomes a part of art now. But as we are in the elementary school, all of us needs to like learn how to write typography. Yeah, so like I think it's like a basic skill for us to write at it. But it's for me, it's I can't do that well. So my calligraphy is very bad. Yeah, my 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 writing is very bad. So
my too.
yeah.
Even that I don't need to write down characters Chinese, but
And for the calligraphy that for nowadays it becomes a casual activities that because when you write down in that way, you have to calm yourself and you have to very focus on every like how to say that every move for the writing brush. Yeah, so every move of the writing brush you have to very focus, like how to push down the brush and move it and how to like pick it up, because the way you pick it up will change the shape of the character. So you have to be very focused and very concentrate on the writing. So it becomes a casual activity that's to ease their minds, like kind of like meditation for people. They can calm down their mind and do the stuff. And sometimes they can because there's a Lunar New Year in Chinese culture. Yeah, so every time in the Lunar New Year period that when people know how to write a beautiful calligraphy, they will write a call it 春联 that we can just say some good fortune, like wish you have a good luck, something for the next year, and we just write it down. And sometimes it can sell to other people, and sometimes just give it to other people as a present, and so they can put it on their door and to have the Lunar New Year hype. Yeah.
That's great. That I'm the person. I like the beautiful fonts and the beautiful letters, and then we can touch another topic, that namely fonts. So have you in your localizer a career? So have you just encounter? Oh my God! Encountered the problems with Chinese fonts that looked ugly, or that just didn't work at all, or so how it is usually the characters.
Yeah, it happens a lot in the previous days that because most of the gaming developer, they didn't know there's a font issue in other language rather than other than English. So when they were choosing the font, they will use the freeware or something that I don't know who suggests them to use, but most of those kind of fonts they don't have the very complete collection of the Chinese characters. So if they put this kind of fonts in the game with Chinese, that the system wouldn't recognize it, so it will just display as a square. So you can in the subtitle you will see something like, hey, I'm talking to square square square, something like that. And if the developer didn't do a QA process, this will go live. And it happens a lot in the previously, like all the Telltale games, they use those kind of fonts that didn't display many of the characters. So it's like all the squares in the subtitles, so player couldn't understand. So they give a negative bomb on the Steam or other platforms. Yeah. So and for nowadays, most of the game developer, they just use the standard one from the Google and one from the Microsoft. They're also free, and they have like a very complete selection of the characters. So using those kinds of the fonts are very safe, and they're not ugly. They're not very pretty, but it's okay. Yeah.
Decent ones.
Yeah, it's decent one. Yeah. But sometimes, because in Chinese, for the like a Word or Excel, the standard font is very ugly. So if the translator or the localization company, they didn't put it a little much work to just change the font, it will be very ugly in the game.
Yes, and I can say that I share your view here completely, because it's a pretty same way with Cyrillic fonts, and that for many game developers it's an astonishing discovery that there are some Cyrillic characters and they are not same as Latin, and there are languages that use them and they need to support them, and that the things with the square boxes is very common for me, and I've seen it many times. And ugly fonts, yes, of course, that we take care of MS Unicode. It supports everything, but it's, oh my god, it's very ugly. You don't need to display such fonts in the games.
Yeah, Unicode is another pain that we have to deal with. Yeah.
Lately, it's there. Yeah, it's good to see that the developers are starting to be more educated, and general globalization in terms of Unicode and whatever helps them. But there are still many examples then just people don't think out of the English language, so a perspective that there are some some very special thing. And the one thing I also wanted to ask you is that maybe you've noted it, you just maybe not, but from my view, there is quite popular and hype thing to make tattoos with Chinese characters. So like it's for love, for wisdom, whatever. But I'm pretty sure that quite often people so select some characters they don't really know what they mean. They give them to masters that don't also know what they mean, and that results in a that works out as a funny result. So have you just ever seen something in reality or from some celebrities or whatever?
Okay. I can see some of the funny posts on the Facebook. Like they're talking about like a foreigner you putting the Chinese character as a tattoo on their anywhere on their body, and it doesn't make any sense. Like sometimes it was like say it's like a drink water on their neck. It doesn't mean anything. It's like very weird. Yeah, and but I think that happens like less and less for them. I think because of the like machine translation are getting better and better, so people will just Google it before they actually do it on the to do the like on a T-shirt or making a tattoo. Yeah, but I remember there's a funny one that in Taiwan there's a foreigner that he wears a T-shirt that it says the foreigner is here in front of their chest, and in the back it says the foreigner is gone, like something. Yeah, it's kind of funny that he actually that we can understand that he knows that how to read in Chinese. Yeah, so it's kind of funny to see that in the real life. Yeah.
And you touched the topic like Google and machine translation, and as we have a localization podcast, that I couldn't let this topic pass by, and I want your feeling and your understanding. So what do you think, Sean, about the modern state of development of the language technology, of machine translation, or the large language models? So what's your feeling? So I'm not asking just about any scientific works or just whatever. No, how do you feel? How it will evolve and how it will change the world in the nearest or not nearest years, and how it impacts your work at the current point, if impacts. So, what do you think?
I have a like positive feeling about that, and because like in translator community here in Taiwan, like most of the translators they're like panicking. They think, oh, their machine's taking off job, something like that. But uh, I think machine translation is kind of a tool that we have to learn how to use it so we can work more efficiently. And for now, because I only work in the gaming translation or localization, and for the machine translation, it's still not usable in gaming industry because the game like there are a lot of fantasies like non real things that happen in the games, and the machine just can't handle it. Because it's too much thing that people have to imagine from it. And for now, that I think my personal experience for machine translation is that it's very good at translating like some kind of like a manual things or the like a regular thing. For taking the game as an example, that when we were translating like the skill description, when it says like this skill can deal like 100 damage to some kind of type of the monsters. For this kind of the strings, that the machine translations can do their job. better. Yeah. So because it's kind of the same formation for them, for the machine to, it can analyze when to like replace the noun, and it can use the same formation to translate all these kind of the sentences. But for the dialogue or other like manual things that is for machine, it's still not um, something that the machine translation can handle it, because in gaming there are too many slangs. Well, characters are having a dialogue, so sometimes it's not sometimes, it's always that machine translation couldn't translate it well, so we have to like retranslate it again for all the dialogue to make it smoother. But nowadays, a lot of the translate like a big translation company or like big developers, they try to uh, doing some cost down, and they want to cut the budget for the localization.
Yes.
So they talk to us that they want to use the machine
Yes.
translation post editing.
And what
And
do you say?
I say first, firstly, I agree with them that we can do that for a trial. Yeah, but after like three, like a couple of the runs, like we do that, we just back out, say, oh no, we don't want to do this because it costs a lot. We cost us more time to retranslate the whole document because it's unusable for I don't know other language, but for Chinese, it's a mess. Yeah, because the grammar stuff and all the like all the wording they use is just not what we will use in the daily life or in the formal situation in the gaming industry. Yeah, so after that, I just said, oh no, even though you give me the same money for like for the TEP process, for the MTP, I wouldn't want to do that because it costs too much time to do that. Yeah,
And what do they say?
they'll just stop sending things to us. Yeah, but for there's a big company, they keep sending us because no other people wants to do it. So they just keep pinging me that, hey Sean, can you do this for us? Can you do us a favor? To just there's only like a few thousand words. Can you help us? Something like that. But I always said, oh, I have other like I've already booked, I fully booked for other project with more money and it's easier to do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I feel your pain, and you know that from some time I really yes I understand that for some language pairs it could work cool, and for some topics it could work cool. But for some gaming companies that so make fancy presentations about how we did cut the costs with an MTP process, that sometimes they uh, just make me feel, oh, it's such fancy. You had a budget for a technology implementation, and you had as a KPI that you need to just implement this process. But for some languages, it just doesn't work, and you have a vendor. The vendor says, "Oh, of course, we do an MTP, but just deletes everything and translates it from scratch just to make it more or less so readable."
Yeah, that's what we were doing right now. Like we don't want to be polluted. Like, don't let the machine translation pollute our mind, so we can start from scratch, and it's much easier. Yeah, and there's another thing that difficult for transitional Chinese for the machine translation, because most of the database they were feed by like they were using the simplified Chinese to do the algorithm, so the output will be combining the traditional Chinese and the simplified Chinese. So it's mostly not usable for us. So we're just like you say, we just scratch it and start it over.
Yeah, and And you mentioned that you and so people from Taiwan can read their simplified characters. But if I understand it right, that if we see a mixture of simplified and traditional characters, it will be just a mess. So it will not be something meaningful, but you'll see it like, oh my God, what is it? What does it mean? So how it was created, or it's a bit different.
Yeah, there's like some of the kind of like what we what like in Hong Kongese Chinese, and yeah. So for example, potato in the simplified Chinese, the potato translation is called 土豆, but in 土豆in Taiwan is peanut. So it's like a totally different things. So we have kind of like this kind of stuff, and I have to say that simplified Chinese, like mainland China, is a very big country. So when we also have like a simplified Chinese translator that helping us do the simplified one, and because they the people like their dialogues are very different. So like in the northern part of China, they're using different terms than the southern part. So when my resource was translating in the southern style, but if the tester or the language QA is from the northern part of China, it will say, no, it's not Chinese. You're translating it wrong, and we get a very low score on the for our work. Yeah, so it's kind of I don't know. There's not a standardized terms that use for like in the Chinese market, I would say. Yeah. So even for the simplified Chinese, they have like different terms they use, but not mentioning that is also totally different than the traditional Chinese one.
Just by the way, to this topic, touching the words that are, the modern things that are totally connected with video games, like buff, debuff, so spell, skill. That because in other languages there are so two. As you know, with all the new words that come into our language, there are two ideas. So just first of all, we just take the source English one and transliterate it, and the second one is that we try to translate it using the same things, and just how it is for Chinese.
For this, it's kind of simpler in Chinese because, like for the gaming or for the like fantasy stuff, like Dungeons and Dragons, all these kind of were started from Taiwan. Like we have like a bunch of enthusiasm that they really like the fantasy stuff, so they started do the very first batch of the translation for the fantasy stuff or the gaming stuff, and this kind of system was like transferred to the mainland China. So they're starting. We're kind of using the same terms for this kind of thing. Yeah. So and for this kind of thing, it's kind of not that a problem for us. But when talking about to like translate to the character's name, that will be another story. That sometimes we have to do the like transliterated them or really like some name like Armstrong, like some of the game you need to translate as like real their arm is strong, like yeah. So, but sometimes we have to like transliterate them as how we pronounce it. Yeah, so it's kind of the always like a debate when we were doing a new project, but as long as it's consistent in the same game, I think it should be fine for us. Yeah. So for this kind of thing, it's not much a problem for Chinese localization stuff. And since you may know that in Chinese we don't have the like masculine or feminine, so we don't have those kind of problem from us. So yeah, it's also another advantage for translating the Chinese.
Yeah. It's advantage and it's a challenge. Then you translate a Chinese game into a Slavic language that have many gender things and case things, and there you need to
when you translate this kind of thing, you can see the query sheet, or like all other language are asking, is this character male or female or non-binary stuff? Yeah, so.
And just by the way, you mentioned the character names, and I can see on your background many things from Star Wars. And in Star Wars, so Luke, was he Skywalker, or it was a Chinese words like walking into the skies?
Yeah, we translated like someone walking in the sky. Yeah, it's much cooler than just translated it. Yeah.
Okay, it's cool. It's cool because I loved such thing that it can be so translated, then it sounds in a native language, like that we transfer the sense of the name. And like in the, or just for example in Talking's works, yes, I just had to know that Bilbo Baggins, yes, is he Baggins in Chinese, or it's about the translation of the word bag? So how it works?
We translated it then, just Baggins, like there's no meaning in the name there. Yeah.
Yeah, because in Russian translations of Tolkien, there was a holy war with different translators. So one used the transliteration like Baggins, one used some more poetical translation of the word bag, some used some more casual translation of the word bag, and it was really interesting.
I think that also happened in the like a Witcher franchise in Chinese market. Like for Witcher in Chinese, we like some of the translator use the Polonish, use the original version to translate it, and some of them use the English version to translate them. So they're different kind of translation for the same franchises, and people are always fighting which version is better. Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, of course, that I guess that maybe there is some similar thing with Harry Potter. That's the big franchises that also have some attitudes to the big franchises with speaking names that like Tolkien, Rowling, they had some sense into the names they were creating, and it was.
And also, I like to mention that while translating for like Japanese games, there are also like you can say advantage or disadvantage in Chinese, because most of us knows how to read a little bit of Japanese, so we have like a double reference for while translating the Japanese games, because they will provide the original Japanese and the English version. But like nowadays, most of the like big Japanese game, their English version is totally different from the Japanese version. Like take the Final Fantasy franchise example, or the Resident Evil. Like the characters have different personality between English version and the Japanese version. So while we translate it, we can see that like they're like how do we translate them? Like because most of the time they ask us to use the English version to translate back to the Chinese, but sometimes there's a lost interest translation from the Japanese to English. So sometimes we can like just look back to the Japanese and see what they were meaning in this kind of the scene or this conversation. So we have like a double reference while translating this kind of games. And
yeah, you also touched an interesting topic because in my experience there were many stories about Chinese games. So mainly developed in the mainland China, and there are MMOs, And the case was that the plot is based based around the classic Chinese novels, the Romance of Four Kingdoms, the Journey to the West. And there are many cultural references that, from my understanding, they are very easy for Chinese player to catch, because I don't know, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but these works, like 4 or 6 classical novels that are part of the Chinese cultural code, and just everyone knows what these names with references, whatever. But for player outside of the Chinese region, this is just, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I always amazed by how like the Chinese to English translator, how they translate this kind of stuff, because it's yeah, if I personally don't have no idea how to translate those kind of things into English, because yeah, like you said, it means nothing in the English, but they always like do a good job to translate them to the English. Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of a big challenge for those translators.
Yeah. Sometimes it just you had to have worked out, like we use the Chinese source to build just a bit different game. So they had a bit different plot, and so new names, new just occurrences, and just to make it understandable. You've mentioned that you have an audio studio, and you just record audio. And the topic they also touched was the machine translation and large language models. And I couldn't avoid the question that what do you think about artificial voices? So because their and their localization of automatic video localization, that's being more and more popular lately. And as with the translations, that with some customers and some developers say, oh my god, why do I need the human translators? It doesn't. So it's a past day. It's from the 19th century, and now the same thing starts to happen with voice actors from time to time. And so I wanted also to understand what's your experience with it, and just what's your attitude to it. So, and what's the quality of the synthetic voices in Chinese, if you heard them, and how it's easier to differentiate. So what do you
That's
think?
that's a very tricky question, a very good one. That many of my voice actor friends are. For now, they're still very chill here in Taiwan, because for the because in dubbing or voice acting, they're like I don't know other language, but in Chinese, there are like at least 2 different categories. One is for the commercial, and one is for the drama. So for the commercial one is not they have much more crisis in this artificial voices new technology, because in the new commercial they have like standard way to perform, like most of their voice acting, they're trying to sell stuff. So and there's uh, the emotion is not that diversity in the commercial, because uh, there's a like a regular way that you pronounce to that you can make the people wants to buy stuff. There's a I don't know how to say that, but there's not much different way you can perform in that way. But in the drama thing, that like even a exertion can express many feelings, like like facial expression. Yeah, if it like just a small thing, you can see that the very detail of the character's emotion. So um, and for now, that artificial voice technology, although they could like tweak very small stuff for the like every voice, but it would still cost a lot of time for the say director to tweak them. The good quality of voice acting, you need a lot of the training, so you can differentiate what's the good voice acting and bad voice acting. So if you're just like a normal audience, like you watch YouTube all the time, you might don't understand what would be the good voice acting. So even though you have the technology to tweak all the like emotions, but you couldn't do that to the best quality for that. So you still need to be like a specialist in the drama or in the like sound directing, so you can know how to tweak them. And like for now, I can see that as an opportunity that some of the voice actors, their emotions are not that emotional. But if we have this kind of technology, we could like just ask them to try their best to do the performance we want, and we can use the technology to tweak them to reach the standard that we wanted. And because for a voice actor, if they are they will need like 5 to 10 years to train to be very accurate to all kind of the emotions, because sometimes you just want uh some certain voices, but his emotion is not that great. So if we have technology, they could solve this kind of problem. So like in Taiwan, there are not many voice actors. They're like I could say like 150, something like that. So in like every commercial or in every drama or cartoon animation, they're like all the same people talking to each other. So if we have this
Yes,
kind
I
of a
understand.
technology, yeah, so we could have like, hey, your voice is special. Can I like use your voices and just use this technology to make the product better, in my opinion.
So your idea, if I get it right, is that the cool thing that could be about artificial voices and the synthetic voice generation, if if the technology can take the voice of just not the of any person and tune it to make it like an actor's voice to give right emotions, to make the pool of actors very broad. Yeah, so you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
cool voice, but you don't know how to act. But we take the software and opla, you're an actor.
yeah, something like that. But yeah, it still needs some. There will be still like legal issue in this category. Yeah, but I think that would be a good way for like if you want a better. I don't. It's not better. It's like because Taiwan's industry is kind of different. Like I said, we only have a limited character pool, so every time there's a character in the animation, people will say, "Oh, this is the Conan." I don't know if you know Conan, the detective. Like his voice is everywhere in like every animation. So people will think, "Oh, it's the same character, the same voice again." So it will be people will be not focused on animation, and maybe distracted from the voices because he think, "Oh, he's from the other animation." Yeah, something like that. So in my personal opinion, that I would like to have more different voices to can be used in this industry. Yeah, but I don't know other languages, but at least in Taiwan, that there's another way that for like a producer or director to give the better quality for product or the project. Yeah.
It's that's very interesting view on this topic. That's and it's I'm really happy that we touched it, and because that's what that's what they meet for, to see a different perspective on the same question that are actual,
Yeah.
but to see it from the different angle, it's always cool. please, if you have any questions to Sean or to me, or you have any ideas for the next episodes, please send them to podcast@levsha.eu. And now, thank you, Sean, again for coming.
Thank
It
you.
was very interesting talk. I'm very happy that we've met here today.
Thanks for inviting me. I hope that you guys learned something. Yeah.